Assalamualaikum, everyone. We're reading from the 24th word, and for us that's on page 354. We're on the last, we left off on the last paragraph of page 354. And now our Adam-like third friend, who is both poor and colorless. He swiftly evaporates in the sun's heat, abandons his egotism, mounts the steam, and rises into the air. The dense matter within him takes fire with the flame of love and is transformed into light and radiance. He adheres to a ray proceeding from the manifestations of that light and draws close to it. O you who resembles Adam, since you act as a direct mirror to the sun, at whatever degree you are, you will find an opening, a window, looking purely at the sun itself in a fashion that affords absolute certainty, and you will experience no difficulty in attributing to the sun its wondrous works. Without hesitation, you will be able to ascribe to it the majestic attributes of which it is worthy. Nothing will be able to take you by the hand and make you forego ascribing to it the awesome works of its essential sovereignty. Neither the constriction of barriers, nor the limitations of your capacity, nor the smallness of mirrors will confuse you, nor impel you contrary to the truth. Because, since you look at it purely, sincerely, and directly, you have understood that what appears in the places of manifestation and is observed in the mirrors is not the sun, but manifestations of a sword, and colored reflections of a sword. For sure those reflections are its titles, but they do not display all the works of its splendor. Thus in this comparison, which is mixed with reality, perfection is reached by means of three ways, which are all different, and which differ concerning the virtues of those perfections and the details of the degrees of witnessing. But in conclusion, and in submitting to the truth and confirming the reality, they are in agreement. Just as a man of the night, who has never seen the sun, and has only seen its shadow in the mirror of the moon, cannot squeeze into his mind the resplendent light and awesome gravity particular to the sun, but submits to those who have seen it and imitates them. Similarly, one who cannot attain to the maximum degrees of names like all-powerful and giver of life through the legacy of Muhammad, peace be upon him, accepts the resurrection of the dead and great gathering intuitively, and declares it is not a matter that can be understood through the reason. For the reality of the resurrection and last judgment is the manifestation of the greatest name and of the supreme degree of certain other names. Those whose gaze cannot rise there are compelled to believe it by way of imitation, while those whose minds can enter there see the resurrection and last judgment as easily as day and night, and spring and winter, and accept it with an easy mind. Thus, it is due to this mystery that the Quran speaks of the resurrection and great gathering at the highest level and in the most perfect, detailed manner. And our Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, who manifested the greatest name, taught it thus. And as required by the wisdom of guidance, the former prophets did not teach their communities, which were at a somewhat simple and primitive level, about the resurrection of the dead at the highest level and with the most extensive details. It is also due to this mystery that some of those who followed the path of sainthood did not see or could not demonstrate some of the truths of belief at the greatest degree. It is also due to this mystery that there are pronounced differences in the degrees of those who have knowledge of God. Numerous other mysteries like these unfold from this truth. Now, since both this comparison hints at the truth a little, and the truth is extremely extensive and profound, we also shall content ourselves with the comparison and not attempt mysteries which are beyond our limited capacity. So that's the end of the second branch. And I was reading it, as I was reading it, I was thinking I should have just stopped with the first paragraph because it seems full and heavy by itself. But I guess we get a sneak peek of how he's concluding this, tying the matter together. But inshallah, let's return to that first paragraph where he's expanding further on the conception of what the atom, of being like an atom, in this metaphor represents. So as he had referenced earlier, the atom is both poor and colorless. So it's transparent. But here he also adds, he swiftly evaporates in the sun's heat, abandons his egotism and mounts the steam and rises into the air. I find it interesting that he's talking about it evaporating in the sun's heat. I guess almost perhaps recognizing that all of its qualities, all of what is given to it is, once I guess you attain a certain level of understanding or realization, you understand that none of those qualities can be attributed to you. They evaporate in the fullness, in the what's the word? In the, I can't think of the word, but just simply in in the heat of the sun, in the degrees of which that heat manifests itself, you simply recognize that there is nothing to you which you can attribute as under your ownership. And I think him Nursey adding abandons his egotism is a further explanation of what he means by this atom swiftly evaporating in the sun's heat. And by virtue of that evaporation, by virtue of that recognition that those qualities are not one's own, they become a means, I suppose, or a vehicle through which one can increase their understanding of reality. I mean, rise into the air, but fully embrace what it is that their existence is. So he continues, and feel free to interrupt me both online and present. I'm just kind of going sentence by sentence, but he continues, the dense matter within him takes fire with the flame of love and is transformed into light and radiance. This is really interesting. It's also very, I guess from a certain perspective, it's very mystical. But I suppose I can understand it in that, if I'm working off the metaphor of qualities and whatnot, since that seems the easiest understanding to me. If I look at certain qualities of mine, at an immediate glance, they seem like dense matter. It's like this heavy weight in that they're so apparently mine. But he says they take fire with the flame of love and they get transformed into light and radiance. And light and radiance seem somewhat the exact opposite of dense matter. What he means by that process of taking fire with the flame of love, I'm not too sure about. I can understand understanding one's own impotence and poverty, understanding that I can't attribute any qualities to myself, but it's interesting or strange that he sees the quality of love. Maybe it originates from the fact that once I do recognize that those qualities are not mine, that everything is constantly given, I realize that I am swimming, if you will, in this sort of layers and layers of mercy, including all the manifestation of the qualities. And in that, I do form this very loving relationship with my Creator, because I feel very secure in my existence. I feel very taken care of. I realize that all my needs are being constantly met. And with that recognition, it's impossible to not feel a sense of love towards the one that is demonstrating to you that you're not alone, and that that you're always being accompanied and given care by your sustainer. I mean, that's one way I'm trying to make it more concrete, or else it seems, again, to use lack of better other wording, very mystical. So let me pose it to our online participants as well, how you guys think we can understand this specific sentence, and within the context of what it means to be an atom amongst these three paths. How can we understand the sentence of the dense matter within him takes fire with the flame of love and is transformed into light and radiance? I mean, he says he adheres to a ray proceeding from the manifestations of that light and draws close to it. Any ideas? I would be appreciative of hands up here. And we can think through this together. Or else I think it's very easy to just kind of give Nursi like a certain identity, or say, okay, you know, he's clearly showing this sort of annihilation of the self within the discovery of the creator. I mean, the language here seems very similar to those sorts of understandings, but yeah, please. Go ahead.
So maybe before going any deeper, I would just like to make one, I mean, it's clear, but one correction for the translation. He was saying flower, droplet, and atom. To me, atom sounds more like something dense, like carbon atom, which cannot really evaporate. But in the original text, he uses, the words that he uses might better be translated as flower, dust, and then
flower, you said?
The first one is flower,
okay.
The second one is dust,
Dust.
and the third one is more droplets.
I see.
Because the third one is evaporating anyway, so it makes sense to put it as a droplet. But the second one is, because the aspect of similarity metaphor that he uses for the second one is, with the telescope of your droplet of thought. So it's like a tiny amount of thought that you have, and with this you are trying to go somewhere. So the point of resemblance for the second guy is smallness. So it's like a dust, piece of dust. So your thought, you think like you encompass the whole existence, you solve the riddle of existence, but with your own thought. But actually your thought is just like a dust, piece of dust. But you are gathering or adding the thought of mankind, like philosophy, adding yourself on top of it. And at best you get close to the moon. This was the metaphor there. In the third one, he talks about now the droplet. But maybe the crux of similarity in here is it's colorless, as he says at the beginning. It's poor, it's colorless, and it evaporates. I guess these are the important aspects of the metaphor in here. And he's resembling this with ego. So as if evaporation of droplet is me giving up, or what was the exact word that they said? Giving up or abandoning my egotism. So we can talk about this. In what sense human ego resembles a droplet, and how come abandoning egotism, what does it mean? And if you do that, in what sense it resembles this water droplet evaporating and then observing, experiencing the sun rays directly.
Yeah. So yeah, that clarification is really helpful and makes more sense, especially when we think about it in terms of it being transparent and evaporating, or having that potentiality to evaporate in the sun's heat. I will pause here, and please, NB and HB, you can go ahead. Would love to hear your thoughts.
I wanted to go back to your question and say that I think originally I was also thinking of the sort of like annihilation of the self, but I really liked your comment, and I think it's more aligned with the paragraph here in that atom and the evaporation is not this kind of abstract concept of, okay, there's this sort of like change or transformation into non-being or kind of like some sort of destruction, but it's more like maybe becoming a more subtle part or version of yourself, in that you realize all your futures are contingent or dependent, and it gives a new sort of answer or meaning. So I like that. I liked what you said, and I wanted to second it.
Real quick, just so I make sure I heard you correctly, did you say that it demonstrates that like all your features are contingent? Just wanted to make sure I heard you correctly.
Yeah. I think the way you said it was that like every property you have, or every characteristic, or anything that you can lay claim to, or so you think, when you're in the presence, right, when the atom is in the presence of the sun, it evaporates because it's actually like a signaling or symbolization of it realizing that none of that actually belonged to it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, thank you. That's really helpful. And yeah, I think it's, it becomes, I guess through this description, it can become accessible. Like this specific understanding can become accessible. Like it's not a sort of destruction of yourself, but rather this more subtle, as you said, transformation that you can undergo consciously, intentionally, and in a much more concrete sense, rather than something that just sort of dawns upon you and you're radically changed all of a sudden. It's more of this gradual, perhaps slow evaporation. Just as you kind of have to boil the water quite a bit to have it evaporate. Maybe you have to boil or percolate into your thoughts and reasoning and reflect over your existence in a similar manner. Thank you. That was really helpful. Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of curious what the original says in terms of like flame of love. Does it use the word like ishq? It does. Yeah, that's still interesting. I would associate it more with like Rahman or something like that, but these metaphors of fire and flame and love being transformed into light and radiance. And if we're talking about it being like droplet-like, referring to that droplet-like friend as a sort of dense matter within him, maybe it's more of a illusionary dense matter, because how can a droplet really, even if it claims to be dense matter, it's not, it's so easily evaporatable. That's not a word, but so I mean, if no one else has any comments, even though I'd be curious to hear others' thoughts on that. Yeah. Oh, please go ahead.
With this idea of the words, he takes fire with the flame of love and all that, right? That seems to me like something, passionate, right? Ish, as we say. And it seems like a fuel that is fuel. It's a fuel for the transformation. That this soul, this ego is passionately seeking transformation. It's not just some process that happens to him, but that it's a process that he seeks out for himself. And he's seeking to become light and radiance, not just go through it passively. And so to me, this reminds me of like purification of the heart. That sort of concept.
Yeah, I mean that's really helpful in that what you're highlighting is that there's this sense of awareness, right? As you said, I'm not a passive subject in this process, but rather one that is forming an intention and consciously trying to vie at something. So it's not that I'm subjected to this evaporation, if I come to this sort of realization, but rather that I want to evaporate into the sun's heat. I choose to abandon my egotism. There's that sense of free will being utilized there, acting upon the sort of mindset or understanding of existence that I come upon. Yeah, thank you. So let me continue reading. It says, he adheres to a ray proceeding from the manifestations of that light. He adheres to, so when he says that light, he's talking about, so we have this droplet / atom, the actual droplet, that evaporates, and the parent dense matter within that droplet is transformed into light and radiance. And so he's saying that droplet, nevertheless, is adhering to a ray proceeding from the manifestations of the light that he was transformed into? Or is it talking about the sun's light? Because there's two different lights or potential lights that could be being referred to here.
I think light from the droplet.
Light from the droplet?
Or from the dense matter that transforms.
From the dense matter. But then, if that's so, then you're drawing close to something that you've already transformed into. Or that's what you're going towards, right? Okay. That would make sense. So it says, oh, you who resembles, I'm going to say droplet with the hope that it won't further confuse anyone. Oh, you who resembles droplet. Actually, look, should I stick to atom? All right, let me just stick to atom because we have so many different names. We have dust, we have atom, we have flower. So we're going to have tulips next. Okay. Oh, you who resembles atom, since you act as a direct mirror to the sun, at whatever degree you are, but even, I'm not, even a mirror really, I'm just completely transparent because a mirror has metal frames and everything if you want to push that analogy, but since you act as a direct mirror to the sun, at whatever degree you are, you will find an opening, a window, looking purely at the sun itself in a fashion that affords absolute certainty. I mean, the phrasing is weird, but I'm going to take that as, regardless, as long as I realize that I'm an atom, that I'm completely transparent, that I'm like a mirror, I can have full access to the sun through a certain opening, through a certain quality, or through a certain name, in a way that will grant me absolute certainty. That will grant me absolute conviction in the realization of what that quality points to. So in a sense, I mean, I guess regardless of how evaporated you are or you are not, you are always directly looking or reflecting or can reflect the sun without any sort of intermediaries or obstacles. And you will experience no difficulty in attributing to the sun its wondrous works. So you can form a direct line of connection from that which you find in yourself and the source of that which you find in yourself. So I guess that's the, I don't want to say pros, but that's the feature of what it means to be like atom. Do we have any questions, concerns? Honestly, I'll be full out front. I expect full cooperation from the, let's say, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people online. Someone disappeared, or Oh yeah, go ahead.
Just adding my thoughts of so far what we've read. I think so. When I was first reading it, or like when reading from the beginning of the paragraph, it says this Adam is poor and colorless, and we said he swiftly evaporates in the sun's heat, and we said this is by abandoning his egotism. And here I'm thinking, yeah, we attribute all our qualities to God. We realize that causes don't have effect, that our existence is contingent. We're being created. Like, we have these beliefs. But then the next sentence, it says the dense matter within him takes fire with the flame of love and is transformed into light and radiance. So like the approach I was taking was with belief, like concluding, like I have like a conclusion that I've made, an intellectual conclusion, let's say, that everything is being created. I'm impotent and needy, and that therefore, like my ego is something that's not actually existing. Like it's being created. I don't independently exist. So I was approaching with belief, but here it says the dense matter within me. Like what fuels like this transformation is flame of love. Like it's not even belief. It's flame of love. So apparently, it does sound mystical. But also, I don't think it is. It should be mystical. Like as you were saying in the beginning, like why would you feel love when you are like when you evaporate, let's say in the sun's heat, and you're able to witness that? So you should be feeling some sort of love there, or some sort of enthusiasm, more than just belief, more than just like an intellectual conclusion. There should be more enthusiasm behind that, some more passion. So I was like,
just belief. Belief, just belief. I feel like belief itself is enthusiasm.
not my
Because it's
belief.
like amazing, like belief.
I mean, yes, belief is very soothing. It's like salvation. It saves you, and it's amazing. But at the same time, believing that I will be taken care of, and I mean, there is more to belief to be able to reach the feeling side of it, like to be able to reach that passion side of it. It should take you there. Now that I think about it, eventually you would see everything is being given to you, and it should take you there. But it's much more than just looking at something and concluding that, yeah, you're a dependent being, and then like stopping there. It goes much further than that. I guess that's what it means when you have to like the steam rises into the air, or like you get transformed to light, and the light draws closer to it. So like you should be drawn closer to somewhere. Those were my initial thoughts. So like that flame of love is still a question mark for me. And then I guess at the end of the paragraph, it's saying something like, at whatever degree of being an atom that you are, you will always have some type of way to look at the sun. Like some part of you will always be completely purely reflecting the sun as a mirror. And is there what kind of example could you guys give for this? I'm wondering. Like what kind of atom could have some part of it that always reflects the sun? Because it's very abstract for me right now.
A simple analogy that comes to my mind is that Allah has 99 names, and that to adhere to one is that if you try to embody a single one within yourself and manifest that fully, you attempt to do that, that's like holding onto a ray. And there's like 98 other rays, but you're holding onto one particular one.
I think there must be an infinite amount of rays.
There
Right?
could be.
I mean, if we're talking about an absolute creator,
there
why
are
limit to
absolutely
99?
more than 99 names.
Yeah.
But I don't know why there's 99 specific names. Maybe those are the only ones that are knowable to us.
Or maybe like most accessible or apparent, perhaps, right?
Perhaps, yeah.
Yeah.
And even within those 99, there are like the main names and then other sub-names that are more like descriptions of these main names. So, it can go on forever, of course.
I mean, just thinking about the concept of evaporation, it's just that like, it's not like, okay, thank you, God. I mean, if I think about it, I'm trying to brainstorm out loud and think about it in, again, concrete terms. If I think about it in terms of, okay, like I was able to do this specific task today at work or school, and I can feel a sense of gratitude for that and say, express my thanks to my creator for I have a tendency to say for helping me do this, as though, I was kind of doing it and he just kind of helped. But actually creating that specific thing for me. But evaporation is this sort of all-encompassing event. It's not a matter of maybe that day, today, I realized that this specific facet in which I experienced a certain name, manifestation of the name of my creator, and I can express my thanks to that, but that seems like let's say 1% evaporation, because the rest of the day I'm still attributing to myself and saying, okay, I woke up, I did this, I did that, and then this specific thing I was having like a very explicit hardship with, he helped me. But complete evaporation or all-encompassing evaporation is just, I guess, I don't even know, I don't think I've ever experienced it or how one would go about and even maintaining it consistently, but just that like at every single moment of my existence, I'm being absolutely looked after. All of my actions are being created for me. Everything, every single moment is being created for me. Leaving no room in any moment for any sort of self-attribution. And I think if I was to come into that sort of state, I think that would be something as passionate as a sort of flame of love, something that, envelops me into all of his names and like pure happiness. Because there's no, just even the thought of it, in the thought of it, there's no sort of instability, insecurity, fear. It's just complete contentment, full existential security. I think, sorry, with the Flame of Love must, I know it's banned, maybe the ban is lifted now, it's been some months, but it must be like full existential security that sort of is the field for transforming into light in readings. But I feel like, Release, if you were going to say something.
How is my relationship with my creator? Generally, I find myself to be trying to make sense of things. But when I say make sense, the way it functions for me is as if I'm trying to intellectually solve some riddles. It doesn't need to be as such, but this is how it is for me. Trying to make sense is mostly if it satisfies my mental abilities. But this is only one part of the story. Let's say if a friend of mine brings me a gift, if I say, yeah, it makes sense, that means he loves me. This is not how it really works. If I receive a gift from a friend, something else also kicks in. I'm not like a robot saying that, okay, what shall I understand when somebody gives me a gift? Oh yeah, and that means they are loving you. It's not that much of a mathematical formula, but it is more like as I receive a gift, I become happy, I become appreciated because I am being appreciated. Then I am also reciprocating this feeling. I show love towards this person. So likewise, in this existence, I am receiving, let's say, sustenance. I can say that, yes, I receive this sustenance. Where do I receive this from? I say, is it sun, is it earth, is it water? None of them can be. Therefore, there must be an all knowledgeable, all wise, all powerful provider who provides me this. This is a logical conclusion, and it makes sense. There must exist such an absolute one. But it is equivalent of saying that, yeah, I received this gift, therefore this person must exist, and it's just part of the story. But if I take it the other way around, or it's not either or, if I take further steps, and as had been told several times before, as a human, I'm not only exclusively intellectual or exclusively emotional, but I go with the other part of mine and say that I am being given, I am being provided, I am being taken care of. And all of these raise, I become more and more excited. Who is this, if you like, secret lover? Or who is taking care of me more than I do? Because at some point, once a brother gave this example, he said that every morning you wake up and you see a rose in your postbox. How would you feel? In the first time, if you see it, you will say, well, maybe it's for somebody else. You see it for the second day, third day, then you start making up stories in your mind. You say, oh, my wife going to kill me. So I have a secret admirer, and it's just each and every time, maybe the next morning you go up and just run to the postbox to see if there's the same rose there again. Is there a note attached to it this time? Or can I go earlier? And,
This sounds very oddly specific.
and can I go and see if, while the guy is putting it over there, so that I know who's doing it? So because since the emotion is now growing bigger in me, I would like to reciprocate it. I would like to know where it is coming from. I would like to start the conversation with this guy. So this is why this things start firing up and things start changing in me. And this is how it is when it comes to how I am being provided, sustained, or taken care of. But I would like to get to know that person because out of nothing, out of no reason, no nothing, within my poorness, I am being given this much of love, as if I am being poured love. I am the recipient of love. So this reception of this love is actually burning me. I would like to reciprocate this love. So it's not like I'm not receiving love, but I need to develop love within me, and then this is going to burn me and I'm going to return it back. It's not like this, but I realize that I am being loved so much. Then I would like to reciprocate this, which makes me realize that there's no me here. Then it's all about him and his manifestations. So when Nursi describes worship, he is talking about these two aspects together. And he says, your worship is reciprocating this love, or the things that you receive now, as much as you become appreciative of them, you want to respond to this. And this is how you do it when you say Alhamdulillah, or when you do prayer, or when you do sajda especially. This enthusiasm, this reciprocating love is taking place there, or supposed to take place there. But for that, what is missing in my personal experience is, maybe because of the way I have been trained, let's say technical 2 + 2 = 4, and it's all about that. You go to the math class and like pursue this path, and it is something to be appreciated. And being a man, like girlish love stories, forget about them. Don't even get close to such books which has love in their titles, whatever. I found myself to be neglecting this part of it. So I guess. And also it is being generally said as either or. Either you go with your intellect or with your heart. It's being generally called as heart. But if you take it as, well, I need both, because I have a mind and also I have all those emotions. So without, there's no reason to split. But I guess both are necessary. And in this case, this emotional part, because in the previous guy, like the droplet, he was using his thought. In this one, he's evaporating with the love.
I mean, needless to say, part of that evaporation with the love is also built together with the thought process as well. I mean, it's I guess the key point is that it's in conjunction with it.
It must be, yeah.
Yes, please, Mohammed Said, go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum. Based on the comments, I would like to focus on this. I think this is the second sentence that Yusuf, you and Abdurrahman also paid attention to the sentence, the dense matter within him takes fire. It reminds me of the level of need that human being finds himself with the meaning. It is such a need that only or anything that is in the universe or nothing in the universe can really satisfy it at all. And the dense matter within him reminds me of such a relationship between human being and the things, and him trying to satisfy that endless hole or endless need of satisfaction with the things, like dense with the things. But whenever it meets with the reality of the existence, then the human being. Excuse me. Look, Baba is talking. You give me a moment, please. It's all right. So give me a moment, please. Then whenever the human being finds a path to meet with to witness the act of creation, while he's living, while he's experiencing, then a window is open to meet something that is not the things, but through the things. And that is the sentence also is telling me that is so the human being is so much satisfied with that meeting that he kind of looks for that meeting always in any kind of interaction, in any kind of experience. He looks for that meeting with the owner of that action, that is taking place every moment in the universe. So that is attractive. That meeting becomes very attractive to human soul. That because that only that meeting satisfies human soul. So it becomes a loving relationship. That meeting is weighted, is expected by the human nature. And whenever he is not able to establish that meeting, or for some reason he's not able to go to the source but the things, then he finds himself with that dense situation, if you like, or that not satisfied situation. And it becomes a call for him to look for something that can satisfy and fully. Yeah, that's it, I think.
Thank you, Brother Mohammed Said, for that beautiful comment. And I guess just going off the last point you were making, in a sense, that dense matter becomes a sort of necessity through which you can turn into a flame of love and be transformed into light and radiance. I experience my need for that which satisfies me through the insufficiency of everything else. Yeah, thank you. Yes, please.
So when I read such text and when I listen to people speaking, and also when I listen to my inner thoughts, I realize that we too much, we allow some broken words, some broken ideas, some broken concepts to prevent us to get into deeper understanding, to question the matters. So for instance, as soon as we read things like love, and the previous paragraph he was talking about the philosopher, so he must be talking about, before he was talking about reasoning, now he's talking about emotions. And just to be honest, at least it's how it works with me, everybody should check himself, herself. When we say words like emotions, what comes to mind is like the movies like Titanic, Notting Hill, right? Pretty Woman, what else? So this is our understanding of emotions. This is what is taught to us. Of course, being educated and so on, we're trying to get beyond Titanic, but still such a dichotomy, such a separation. But there is a reasoning, there must be something else, like he's talking about the heart, emotions. I don't remember, I'm not a complete expert of Quranic scripture and so on. I don't remember Quran is talking about the heart in a way which would remind us emotions in the way that we use in our daily life. I feel bad, I feel good, there's an electricity between us. Or I like it, I dislike it. I don't remember, I might be wrong again. Or when I read such a text, I don't see any benefit of it. So he's talking about love, he's talking about heart. I guess what we should do is question and try to find better concepts, try to find better ideas. Maybe better words. Words doesn't matter, but to the extent they reflect the ideas, they matter. We shouldn't be lazy, because it doesn't make sense to anyone, right? Authors here now going to a further level, and he's talking about being hysterically emotional. Nobody thinks that, right? Or whenever we talk about the love, another person says, but you cannot also take take away the reasoning, right? We have to conclude. So this is endless, because this is not a fertile discussion, to me at least, because we're trying to first restrict ourselves in a framework which is driven by some other people who are not even thinking about such matters, and then trying to solve the matter, such a matter, within this framework. So I guess we should do better. That's one personal idea. So when I read this, dense matter within him takes fire with the flame of love, and it's transformed into light and radiance. Flame of love, dense matter evaporating, transferring. It takes fire with the flame of love and transforming into something. So he's, at least he's obviously talking about experiencing something in real. Right? This is not anymore a textbook definition for you. Or this is not anymore something, there's a tickling feeling inside me, I don't know what it says. It's not about that anymore. This is like experiencing something in full extent, making sense of it. And I also think we shouldn't mystify things. When we study these things, the first response we usually give is, I don't know how this is possible, I never experienced this, as if it's something beyond our experiences. But
At least the way I understand everybody, without any exception, everybody, when they fail really good, when they realize that they don't have anything there in their hand, the only thing they can do, cry, ask for help, and do it not, again, hysterically, but knowing what they do. Everyone who experienced such a, the moment, I'm sure every one of us experienced at one level of our life, at one point of our life, we will know at least what author is talking about. We will know that there's like a glimpse, as he says. Since you act as a direct mirror to the sun at whatever degree you are, whether you feel this moment, realization, this experience to the full extent, whether it's because of your marriage, because of your school, because of your, family, or because of your reality, your belief matters. Regardless, when you feel it, when you experience this, you will know what it means to be poor. You will know what it means to be colorless. You will know what it means to be atom-like. Just these honest moments of our lives that we realize that we are nothing. I guess this is what he means by whatever degree you are, you will find an opening, a window. Because at these moments, there's an opening in front of you. Just follow me. Don't forget your experience. Stick to it, as he says, transforms into light and radiance. He adheres to a ray proceeding from the manifestation of that light. Stick to this light of your experience, which tells you are nothing, you are poor. Draws close to it. It will reach to the air, it goes into the air, rises into air, right? He says. Stick to these experiences. There is nothing mystified there. Just be honest to yourself. Stick to these moments of yourself. They will take you, they will raise you to the air. Experience them. Just be whole human. You don't have to do something special. I guess it's just the opposite. Don't try to do something special. When you experience this moment, do not try to philosophize. Do not try to romanticize. Feel it. Realize that you are nothing.
Brother Berkan, you make a really strong point.
Oh, because of my tone, like
against,
the way I speak, I don't leave any room to disagree.
It's all about delivery.
You make a really strong point against romanticism, but what you don't understand is that your words are enough to put me this close to hysterics myself.
Are you gonna evaporate?
This close.
Yes, brother Said, Muhammad Said. Is it? No, not Muhammad Said. Sorry, my eyesight is bad. NB and HB, please go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for the comments so far. They've been delightful to listen to. Regarding this matter, regarding the dense matter, and then the flame of love that gets transformed into light and radiance, and then draws nearer to it. I guess like the way that I was trying to make sense of it was, as far as my reality is concerned, regardless of how I understand my reality, like there is a sense of my needs being met, and of course
my awareness of this will vary from person to person, or even just for myself from moment to moment. But I find that whatever I need is being given to me. But if in this situation when, so like I was trying to understand what it means for the matter to take fire and almost become this other, like almost another light, or like kind of not becoming another light, but rather losing the matterness of itself, if that makes sense. And maybe one way of going about it is like through approaching it from the opposite lens, in the sense that right now I find myself as a dense matter, in the sense that in my actions or in my interactions, and sometimes, many times, the heedlessness that I find myself in, I interact with things, whether it's my boss or a coworker or my friend or family, whatever the case is, or myself. I'm not usually in a state of awareness about the qualities that are being manifested in front of me, that are sometimes being manifested on me, that are being manifested on other people, that are in a constant state of exchange between me and others, that I'm not aware of who the owner is. I usually just go on autopilot and say, oh, she was being unjust to me, or rather she was being kind to me, or she was being just to me, or he was being, compassionate to me, or whatever the case is. Or I get angry at that person, or I feel gratitude towards that person, as if they are the source of the quality that is manifested. So this dense matter then is this state that I find myself in already. And then the fire of love, or transforming into light and radiance, then becomes almost in a way the opposite of this situation, as far as I can understand it. So, I don't know to what extent this will connect properly, but recently, like within myself, I was finding these feelings of like wanting to break free, or this desire for freedom, or not being trapped or something, like a desire to not depend or something like that. And recently I watched this video about this person who was suffering from this illness, which was like their muscle or something was turning into like almost like stone, or it was turning into bones. Sorry, it was turning into bones. And they were coming to a state of being, they were like the same age as me, and they were almost like unable to move, almost to that extent. And they were able to do like maybe 2-3 tasks on their own, and everything else they had to depend on someone else. And I was just saying, look at this, like here you are complaining about wanting to be free, and here is someone who's kind of, at least from a physical perspective, who does not have as much freedom as you in this regard. And after this video, I was taking a walk, and it felt very liberating. I was just like, yeah, I'm walking, and like I'm being given this freedom to walk, and I can go wherever I want with my feet. And it felt very liberating in that sense. And in the experience, or in that awareness at that moment, the more I felt this awareness of, I have this sense of freedom. I'm not dependent necessarily on one, like another human being, or, I don't have to be, I don't have to necessarily feel trapped in that whatever sense that I was thinking about. I felt a sense of gratitude. So this almost like, I don't know to what extent it directly ties in with this, but the more the dense matter then takes fire, the more it becomes aware of its reality, the more it can kind of I don't even know if you can use the word cultivate, but the sense of gratitude is given to it by its nature of recognizing the reality for what it is, as in by letting go of that which is not natural to it, so that the qualities that then I that I experience in not taking ownership over them, then in attributing them over to the one who must be the source, then I am freed from the burden of having to, make sure that I am free, for example, or make sure that I am taken care of, or make sure that, then I become not a beggar to someone else or to myself or to natural causes or whatever it is that you, whatever it is, everyone's placeholder there. And in that sense, then I take light, I take fire with the flame of love, in the sense that I feel gratitude because I'm not dependent on anyone else who's kind of on the same existential sphere as myself, and rather my existence at this moment is being given to me, and it continues to be given to me as long as I exist. As far as I've experienced it, I've yet to experience a moment of non-existence. So it doesn't make sense, yeah. But that being the point, so yeah, abrupt ends to my rants. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that lovely thought process with us. Yeah, I mean, I feel that I can affirm what you've been saying and sharing as well. So if no one else has any other comments, we can continue reading, inshallah. So he continues to say, without hesitation, you will be able to ascribe to the sun, the majestic attributes of which the sun is worthy. Nothing will be able to take you by the hand and make you forego ascribing to the sun the awesome works of the sun's essential sovereignty. So there is no obstacle that remains between you and being able to recognize the sun as the source to which you look to. Neither the constriction of barriers nor the limitations of your capacity, and I feel like in when it comes to the flower and the droplet, he emphasized certain obstacles or potential limitations. So neither the constriction of barriers nor the limitations of your capacity nor the smallness of mirrors will confuse you. Confuse is an interesting word. Nor impel you contrary to the truth. Because since you look at it purely, since you look at the sun purely, sincerely, and directly, you have understood that what appears in the place of manifestation and is observed in the mirrors is not the sun, but the manifestation of it of a sort, and colored reflections of it of a sort. So when he's saying just grammatically, since you look at it, what is the it referring to? Is it the sun or the truth, or?
Just in this metaphor, it's something.
Yeah, but then he says, since you look at this, if it's the sun, since you look at the sun purely, sincerely, and directly, you have understood that what appears in the place of manifestation and is observed in the mirrors is not the sun.
So manifestations are not so. You can directly look at the sun. So when you look at the reflection of sun somewhere, you will know that it's not sun. It's just a manifestation of the sun because you saw the real sun, or you see the real sun.
Thank you. Yeah. And you didn't even need the text for that.
I'm looking at the text.
Yeah, you are. That's true. With no obstacles and limitations. For sure, those reflections are its titles, are the sun's titles, but they do not display all the works of its splendor. Right? So you can't exhaust the sun through the manifestations of it, but you can nevertheless affirm that they are titles or signifiers or signposts to it. I don't have anything particularly to say about this paragraph or like these parts of it. Yeah.
So going off what Brother Brickman was saying earlier, just saying what he said really is like, so before this paragraph we just read, we were saying that since you act as a direct mirror, like there will be some opening, a window that you can look and see with absolute certainty. And then in this paragraph, we're saying nothing will take you by the hand and make you forego ascribing to it awesome works of essential sovereignty. Like nothing will be able to confuse you. Like every, you know for sure, let's say like you experience a small window or opening of being poor in your life, or like with absolute certainty, or like you just know it that you are poor. No one can come to you and say, no, you're actually very strong, you can actually do it, don't worry, like it's all in you. And then you're like, no, I'm very sure with absolute certainty that I am poor and that I am an impotent being, and nothing can confuse me about that. So that's how I'm understanding this paragraph, is like when you realize your reality of being just this very poor, colorless thing. And in your life, this happens maybe in like small events, like small windows. Like you realize it sometimes in your life, or as you develop it, maybe you can realize this in more areas.
NB and HB, please go ahead.
I was also thinking about that line, that nothing will be able to take you by the hand and make you forego ascribing to it. Which seems like, I think it makes the process of becoming Adam-like like an uphill battle. You know, it's not easy, because this sentence to me is implying that there are active forces who are working against my interest, right? They're not, it doesn't sound like it's my own ignorance or my own blindness to the truth. It's someone taking me by the hand or something. And so even though I like that at whatever degree you are, like everyone has this potential to look directly at the sun, the obstacles are not just self-inflicted, but there's a lot going on external to the person, maybe, that is going to somehow be battled. I don't know if someone has a more charitable interpretation of this, of course, but it's like, to me, it signifies there's something there, or like there's other things that are in your way, whose mission maybe is to make sure you never get to the state. And once you do get to that state, they won't be able to appeal to you anymore. But until you do get there, you'll have to kind of struggle against them. So yeah, it's a little worrying, but I guess nothing good comes without a fight. Go ahead.
Thank you, NB, for that comment.
How do you know she was NB? Not HB.
I am secret insider.
Okay.
Anyways, or just a guess maybe. So thank you, NB and HB. Yeah, I mean, so you are right that there is this connotation of an active force, right? Nothing will be able to take you by the hand. And you're also, I think, correct in that it seems like something that is not just my own ignorance, not the lack of something, but rather this sort of active presence maybe. But at the same time, I wonder, you know, insofar as avoiding speculation, the only forces that I can confirm for myself are probably like my ego, as in my tendency to make my own self an obstacle. So even though I may know, so it's not just ignorance, but even though I may know that I can't attribute it to myself if I want to, or if I there's a desire to want to have a sense of ownership over a certain quality, then that desire could be something that takes me by the hand. I don't know how else to think about it. I mean, what else? What are the other alternatives? I suppose. This is just like the limitations of my own thought. But please go ahead. Yeah.
No, you're right. I think that's what I was trying to understand. It seems that even if it's an internal battle, and like you're right, you can only or you only have as far as yourself goes, but within you there are different forces acting, and so it's like a struggle, and I don't know, it's a little weird because even though you're supposed to be a cohesive entity, the implication can be that you have parts that have different goals and you have to sort of align them somehow. But I liked what you said about like your desire can take you by the hand, or your whatever. I think that's a good way to look at it.
I mean, at the same time, it feels strange to me, I guess. Like, yeah, like I feel like I should be cohesive or not have like disparate parts, or it feels strange to think of like, I don't know, good Aishinur and bad Aishinur forever in eternal struggle with each other. One trying to attribute everything to herself, the other one not. I feel like, yes, I have free will, and at every moment, my free will can take me in one direction or the other. So, and my free will is not even, like, I say my free will, but I am free will in a sense. Like, it's not, like, it's a component of me. There isn't this sort of division in me. As far as I'm aware, it's just free will. So it's always going to, it's not even like a separate force, but it's always going to lead me in a direction. And it can take me, I don't want to say, if I say take me by the, okay, for the sake of the analogy, I'll say it can take me by the hand in one direction, or it can take me by the hand in another direction. And so, I feel like for me that understanding makes more sense rather than these sort of like clashing powers, not powers, but like clashing desires, or this sort of, just like good and evil forces. And maybe it's just that when I come to this sort of state of mind, it's saying that the free will, it's so obvious that the free will must take me in a certain direction. It's like I'm necessitated almost by that certain realization. Yes, I would love to hear. What, you want to raise your hand? Are you sure?
You want to say something?
Bishra wants to say something.
So what I understand from these lines, like personally, again, I wouldn't take it to the understanding of like a different parts, different things happening, something external or internal taking me somewhere. Rather, the way I understand is that your understanding will be clear, pure, or your connection with the reality will be, or without any barriers. Like you wouldn't, for instance, let your love to your child to take you somewhere unwanted in the sense that you wouldn't like. You won't let it that way. Not that, there's something called like a love of child trying to take you somewhere. So you wouldn't let such a precious thing will take you somewhere you wouldn't like claiming an ownership of the child, for instance. Rather, you will realize, as the author says, the love that you experience here is just a reflection of the love of your sustainer. Right? So in that sense, whatever you experience is for you, not against you. It's there for you to experience the love of sun, light of sun, or love of your sustainer. And being an atom-like or droplet, being an atom-like, you wouldn't let such a precious bounty, which is given to you for that reason, take you somewhere like unintended, let's say. That's how I understand it. Rather than there are
And it
some
becomes
stuff.
so blatant.
Sorry?
It becomes so blatant, like so clear, I guess. Like,
Yeah, I think so, yes.
like you act in a way you do because it's just there.
Mhm. All different ideologies, all different understanding that you will encounter, that you have to face in your life, wouldn't affect you.
Yes.
I'm thinking about the sentence or the second half of the paragraph altogether. You will experience no difficulty in attributing to the sun its wondrous works. Checking in myself, what am I in my life having difficulty in attributing to the Creator? Hardships. Yeah, some bad things happen, and if I attribute it to the Creator, it doesn't make sense. If I attribute it to something else, it doesn't make sense either. So this is one of the things. The example that he gives in the following part is resurrection, afterlife. I guess I simply say, yeah, it must. I cannot really see how it does, but I hope such a thing exists. He says if for the atom-like friend, there's no obstacle in this sense. He's not going to have any issues with that. Like the construction of barriers, limitation of capacities, smallness of mirrors will not confuse this type of person, nor impel that type of person contrary to the truth. Like the definition sounds very good. This person is not being confused, not being impelled to the contrary to the truth. If anybody would like to give a practical example, why would this be the case, or how would this be the case? Let's say some hardships happen, or some evil things happen. Some children is being killed, or an innocent child dies in a traffic accident. Forget about the Syrian children that are being killed in the war. Even a simpler case, like in a simple regular traffic accident, a child is dying. Still, it's something very huge, gross. So how are you going to handle this? What is the wondrous work in here? And how it is that constriction of barriers, limitations of capacities, or smallness of mirrors doesn't confuse. Because confusion is a big thing for me. I get confused. Like I'm trying to distinguish right from wrong, but I'm getting confused. It's not being that easy, that crystal clear. I mean, going with our a few weeks back Wednesday discussion, meeting of the two C's, it happens, but I just passed by it. I don't notice that I passed it. And in this sense, I like going with the story in there of Musa and Khidr. I think like I have something like a fish which belongs to me. It disappears right at that point, but I do not even notice it. I took it for granted. It went away, but it's not being that easy. And I guess this story from beginning to end was studying on that. So, and in that story also, Khidr was killing a boy, and Musa was getting angry, saying that, how come you're doing such a thing? So what does it mean that I'm not going to be confused at such a point? And how is it that recognizing myself as poor and abandoning my ego. How does this happen if anybody has a practical example, real life example?
Nazmul, you can go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum, guys. So in response to Brother Yusuf's question, I think it just comes down to it's not about really knowing the truth of the matter or not being confused. I think it more comes down to trust, and I guess when trust is solidified in the heart, then I guess I guess like it helps us arrive at a set of thoughts or situations that make us feel comfortable. I mean that could be one way.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Yeah, that's all I had. I was just gonna say, yeah. So like the way out of confusion, I think it's more it has more to do with trust than actually, I guess, searching for a specific type of answer. Like if we see a tragedy in front of us, maybe it's not possible to find a specific answer at that moment, right? Like it's just not possible given the limitations that we have as to why the tragedy is happening or what the correct answer to that is. So maybe it's more so that we're trusting in God's will that in the end that it was something wise.
Thank you. Insight. Yes, please.
So regarding trust or maybe patience, I would say, so at least to me, the patience is not a state that you attain in a moment and then that's it. Like you sit there and say, okay, I'm patient. I guess patience or trust is a process, right? And I don't think it works in a way that, you trust that there must be a wisdom and, I trust it, so be it. Rather, you trust that wisdom will be given to you, wisdom will be revealed to you. You trust that in the story of Musa and the servant, Khidr, you trust that Khidr will reveal you the answers. Or even when you don't see the answers right there, the wisdom right in the moment, you are patient in the sense that you are searching for, you are waiting for wisdom to come to you. Rather than I'm patient, I don't need to understand, I don't need to know what's going on, I'm patient. I guess this is being just lazy. This is being, I don't know, just living the moment. Like I'm not saying that you have to understand in the moment, you have to find the answers right in the moment, but I guess the patience or trust is the process, is the journey of reaching this understanding, trying to reach this understanding, knowing that it's coming from the all-wise who also speaks to me, that he will reveal to me the wisdom. And I'm asking for it.
Being in a state of asking.
Yes.
Yes. No, please go ahead.
So yeah, I like what you said. It's not just something in the moment. It could also be that when a certain thing does happen, because you are asking, because you are trying to search for the wisdoms of stuff that happened to you before, maybe you remember those things. You remember the other trials that you went through, and I guess the wisdoms that were revealed to you. And I guess when you remember them, you can sort of think inductively about this new trial and say, there must be some type of wisdom in here as well. And I guess if I'm patient with the process, then something will come out of it. So I guess trust is, just like everything else, it has to be a habit, right? Like there are, some people are more inclined to patience than others. And like you guys were saying before, that our personalities are, I think, split because there are different things inside of us that are trying to achieve different goals. But I guess the gap between what we believe rationally, like what we know to be good, and our own behavior, like that gap is where like that development and like getting closer to God, like that's where it happens, right? Like that's where that's how our personalities are defined, and that's how that's the opportunity for us to grow, I guess. So I mean, yeah, and I guess trust in the same way, it has to be something that's practiced, and the more we practice it, I guess it'll be easier.
So we have a comment by Muhammad Said. He says, having limitation itself is enough of an experience to reach the one who puts the limits. But human beings may think being limited is not enough as an experience to reach the sun. Having limitations itself is enough of an experience to reach the one who puts the limits, but human beings may think being limited is not enough as an experience to reach the sun. Would you like to elaborate, Muhammad Said, if you're available?
Yeah, my the things that I wrote is not clear because my mind is not clear. Actually, I was gonna put a question mark. I don't have the text at this moment in front of me, but I was listening to the paragraph that Yusuf brought up, or the sentence that Yusuf brought up, was mentioning about the capacity. It reminded me of the situation of myself that like sometimes I feel that it is hard for me to accept my limitation for different reasons. Something that I am not sure if I will be able to handle it, but it attracts me for different reasons to attempt to do something. But then I realize, what the result of my attempt makes it harder, or makes it like I find myself in a difficult situation, and then I tell myself why I attempted this. I knew that it is beyond my capacity. So that kind of I remember myself in that situation when I heard the sentences that now by now I realize that actually it should be enough for me to see that I am limited, and my limitation should be or I can use that limitation, whatever it is, my limitation as a material to work on to reach what I really need. I guess why I attempt to do something that is beyond my capacity is thinking that what I will do is going to benefit me, or what I will do is going to benefit me, but not the meaning of it, not the connection to the creator, but the things that I will do, that I will achieve, will benefit me. And is it clear? So that's all I can say at this moment.
Thank you. That does really help further understand your comment. Yes, brother.
My mind is not clear either, but it looks like since he's saying that the smallness of mirrors will not confuse you nor impel you contrary to the truth, so the size of the mirror is not a measure of how well I'm going to know him or how well I'm going to acquire truth. But this was not the case for the flower, for example. size of the flower or the varying colors that can be reflected over the flower would change things for the flower. But this is not the case in here. My understanding is, since he started by being poor, so by understanding that I don't own anything in and of myself, I cannot, there is no independent me in the sense of existing here. So anything that I say I is a mirror, is a reflection, is a manifestation. So this poorness, putting poorness in there, is as if whatever, with this consciousness, whatever I experience is a connection to the unlimited, the eternal, the absolute one. So I guess from that point of view, there is no small, there is no large. Because anything that I sense becomes this connection itself. But in the case of flower, for instance, the flower was taking some dense I over there. The I in there was dense. The flower was saying that I have such a texture, I have such a color. But there was something, and since the mirror was dense in there, it was not poor, it was a beautiful flower. Then the size, the surface area, what's it in here? He said capacity matters a lot in this sense. So I'm questioning myself now. How much do I know about the all-wise one? If I am smarter, do I know all-wise better? If this is the case, then that means I'm not poor. Or I don't know, if it's a matter of mercy, do I get to know my Creator more? If, let's say, once I get a child, now I start sensing him as merciful, then that means I'm not really feeling poor. I still attribute something to me. This is why as the size of the mirror changes, then I get to know him better. So otherwise, at least from the description that he puts in here, and by tying it back to the poorness over there, it makes a little bit of sense. No matter what, I would be able to, just within the tiniest experience of mercy, I would be knowing the merciful one. And large, small experiences wouldn't confuse me.
So when I like something, an idea, I take it, steal it, rephrase it with my own words, and sell it if it is my idea. So I would do the same to Yusuf's thoughts. I like them. Giving you your little fee, so now I can freely steal them.
It was not mine, I am poor.
I guess this is really important. Like, it reminds me, sometimes we fool ourselves saying that, oh, we have to know him better, so we have to study more. You have to go to university, you have to study, you have to do PhD. As you become a scientist, as you become artist, as you become X, you know him more, better, through what you do. It doesn't mean that you should stop what you do, because author doesn't say that, become poor in the sense, the people on the street would understand. People on the street meaning people who doesn't care about such matters. But he says it doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter what mirror you are looking from. So don't try to praise, or what is the opposite? Insult your mirror. If you are an artist, stay an artist. But do not think that you have a better access of, let's say, creativity because you are an artist. Don't think that you have a better sense of giving life because you're studying living objects. So I guess that's important.
Wait, I'm sorry. Why not?
Why not?
Wait, are you saying like the artist should not have better access to quality of artistry because they're an artist?
No, I'm saying that I don't think you would understand the creator better in the sense of creativity just because you are an artist.
I mean, sure, in the absolute sense, no, but you would be able to experience different facets of the quality of creativity, it seems, intuitively.
If you plunged in the causes, in a short answer maybe, yes, that's true, because in our daily life, for instance, Abdurrahman, he doesn't have access to creativity because he's like a, I don't know, how would you say, he lives like a wooden stick, right? He doesn't bend that much, you don't see these shapes, all these creative shapes, right? You don't see, but when you look at, I don't know, Atik, mashallah, he's an artist, right? He has the soul of artist. Thus, he has a better access to it.
But I don't know if that's plunging into causality. That's just the order of existence. I mean, it's just experiential.
So one example, maybe it may help. So Nursi asked the same question. He says, sometimes I was thinking, like someday, I was thinking, Nursi, don't be, haksızlık etme.
Don't do injustice.
Don't do injustice.
Be unfair.
Don't be unfair to yourself. You have all these, you have access to all these knowledge, all these, philosophical methods. You have this education. You are special. You have a special access to something compared to others.
I mean, it's special in the sense that the artist works on her art.
Yes.
And it's not special in the sense that it's also accessible to those who may choose to work and experience it for themselves as well.
But sometimes it's not choice. Like, for instance, in the case of Abdurrahman, even if the poor guy chooses to do the art, he wouldn't. So sometimes it's not choice. Like, you cannot run as fast as Usain Bolt, even if you choose. You cannot. Be realistic. So going back to Nursi's example, he was at the end saying that, you know what, don't be fooled. You don't have, you are not given these things so that, you will have a special access to something because you need them to understand something maybe others would understand without them. So again, the point is not to say that, being an artist or being a scientist or being special in something is bad.
But it's not a privilege like absolute
Exactly.
access.
But that was something, like, what was the last thing you said? Yes, do you remember?
What I remember is for the flower, being larger or smaller makes a difference. But for the atom-like, being larger or smaller doesn't matter, and it doesn't confuse. So this part was important.
After that, you said something else. Okay. Because I would not still objected. So since I don't even remember, it means you were right and I was wrong.
So, of course, as unsurprisingly, when we have 3 minutes left, now everyone's excited and raising their hands. Mashallah, no, I'm very glad. So I think Nazlul had his hand first, and after him, NB and HB can go ahead. Inshallah.
Yeah, assalamualaikum. I had a response to Birkan. I mean, yeah, if you're studying a particular field or you're like artist or biologist, whatever, yes, it might, you're right that it won't give you some special access to knowing about that, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't give you a special access to maybe appreciating it more than others. I mean, I think you don't have to really know the whole thing, but maybe it can open you up to appreciating a certain aspect of creation. So that was my comment.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I don't know if I caught the first part that well, but when you say privileged epistemic access, I wasn't thinking of special as superior. I was just thinking that whatever you decide to do or specialize in just gives you a unique standpoint, right? And I think I agree. I think my intuition lies more with what you said, in that it seems like, yeah, like everyone has their own experiential reality, and it doesn't make one more or less able to access a certain thing, but it just charts a different kind of path. Even though Nursi is talking about degrees of knowledge too in the paragraphs we read for today, and the paragraph we read specifically, I wasn't understanding, like, if you specialize in one thing, like if you're an artist, it doesn't mean you're above some other people, but it just means you can have this unique window for you. So I don't know what's like causal or differently committal about that. Yeah.
Thank you both for sharing your thoughts. Thoughts are always welcome, and I feel allow the discussion to be more fruitful, and I'm very appreciative of them. And I think just on a final note, since it is 9:30, I'll just share my takeaway from maybe this last portion of our discussion, which is that, I mean, as is often the said, perhaps, but nevertheless, attains new meaning for me each time, is just that it's central around need, whatever is given to me, whether that's understanding or experience or whatever it is, it's because I am in need of it. Looking at my experiences, looking at understandings, looking at whatever is given to me through the framework, through the lens of need, I think really helps me understand the matter, and also situate myself within my reality. I mean, so just understanding that I am needy, and that whatever I am experiencing is being delivered to me precisely because of the particularized needs, and so the particularized existence, reality, experiences that I'm being granted are always designed, personalized for the needs of Aishan, or for my own needs. And I think, again, just not to be repetitive, but when I frame it in that sense, it acts as a reminder also of what it is that I am, what kind of situation I find myself in, which is that of complete and utter poverty. So thank you. Nazmal, if you have if that hand is new hand, then please go ahead, and then inshallah, if it's not, okay. If anyone else has...
Sorry, that's not new.
Okay, and finally...
just a joke maybe about the last part we discussed. So I guess if we think that the things that we do or things that we are given makes us a special or give us a unique perspective, however you call it, I guess then when author says, for instance, the prophet, our prophet Muhammad has accessed, understood all the names to their maximum degree, then I would understand that the prophet was a man of Renaissance, like dealing or studying natural philosophy in an old sense, like physics, the biology. When he was free, he was studying frogs in his rooms, trying to understand how things being given life. And some other moments he would paint some beautiful men, of course. So anyway.
On that blasphemous note.
So yeah, just as a joke. Yeah.
Thank you.
True joke.
سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعواهم الحمد لله رب العالمين.